how many literary-minded, brooding, experience-hungry young men, perhaps with a penchant for mind-altering substances, dream of shedding their inhibitions and naivete by traveling alone to some off-the-beaten-path foreign land for half a year, and coming back not only as changed men, but with a book about the places they saw, the people they met, and the trouble they got into and out of. A book that will make their name. So few people ever pull off such a feat. First, you have to have the guts to wrench yourself out of your conventional life to take such a trip. Second, you've got to have writing talent. And third, you've got to have the patience and perseverance to wait for that writing talent to mature and develop, even if it takes 20 years. The Canadian debut writer, David LeBrun, has pulled it off with his memoir, Delirium Vitae, published this June by Tortoise Books. Who knows if it will make his name, but in a perfect world it would. At 17 years old, LeBrun watched cancer devour his father, who had slaved away in a gold mine for 20 years after putting aside his passion for the piano. A few years after his father's death, a stroke rewired his mother's brain so that a once charismatic and energetic woman now spent all afternoon watching soap operas and tennis on television. Before any of this family tragedy, when LeBrun was 12 years old, his best friend died in a car accident, just after LeBrun had fought with him over a girl. And when LeBrun tried to mourn his best friend's death in front of his family, his mother told him that if he didn't stop crying, she would have to take him to a shrink. Words that taught him to bottle up his feelings. So, such was LeBrun's emotional baggage when, on his 25th birthday, he decided to travel down to Costa Rica to spend some time with his stoner friend Mac, who was also recovering from family tragedy, and then to travel across Mexico with a backpack, which, as he writes, held every damn thing I owned. A humiliating display of my disastrous life. And then he returned 5.5 months later with 17 notebooks filled with his writing. As he puts it, a tower sculpted out of all the dirt I dragged myself through. The book is filled with straightforward but very effective descriptions of place. For example, of a dilapidated housing project where dogs barked, children shouted, firecrackers popped, and the dull thud of a deflated soccer ball beat against a concrete wall. Or of his friend Mac's drug-addled drawing of a dream, like the art of a possessed child, a thing to call a priest about. Or of his fellow travelers, in this case of a woman that he's attracted to. I could see Violet in her uniform, the flight attendant who leans over your armrest to force the overhead compartments closed and brushes your arm with her hip. LeBrun can really bring a subtle moment alive. And the voice changes when LeBrun, the character, is drunk and stoned, which is most of the time that he's traveling. You get everything you would expect from an aspiring writer's travelogue. Random or bizarre random moments, cultural strangeness, the generosity of strangers, the stinginess of others, the danger residing in still others, the lover, the near lovers, the heartbreaking goodbyes, and the total characters. This wacky traveling street musician, this gay truck driver who picks up LeBrun when he's hitchhiking, this near Olympic boxer turned small-time gigolo and con man, these two high school runaways, all of them distinctly drawn, and always with LeBrun's sad childhood nipping at his heels. He can't escape it. And then the choking loneliness when the adventure comes to an end and the hangover hits. And then the very satisfying finale. The book jumps ahead 22 years, and LeBrun gives us a surprising emotional moment that I will not ruin for you. I'd say that Delirium Vitae could be described as a fusion of all the 20th century classics that birthed the love of reading and writing in so many young men, myself included, although I'm no longer young. Jack Kerouac's On the Road, for the state of constant movement, for the hitchhiking, for the immersion in the moments, for the almost amphetamine-induced pace. Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, for how well it describes a citywide fiesta, under the influence, with friends, the thrilling chaos and momentum of it. John Fante's Ask the Dust, for the punchy, efficient prose, for the humor, for the quirkiness, for the desperation, for LeBrun's imagined literary advocate, Bella Chevalier, perhaps in allusion to Arturo Bandini's editor, J.C. Hackmuth. Denis Johnson's Jesus' Son, for the drugged out, down and outers, just barely getting by, but perhaps living fuller and more eventful lives than the rest of us. And I would even say Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Once again, for the trippy nature of the tale, but also for the animal appetites and primal selfish instincts of certain memorable characters. More than once I thought of Dr. Gonzo, Hunter S. Thompson's wildly hilarious Samoan attorney and driver. Change the background slightly, or at least the angle, for lighting reasons. The technical prowess of this YouTube channel is off the charts. Always thinking about that. Anyway, Tortoise Books sent me a copy of Delirium Vitae to get a blurb. I read it and I happily provided it. I will read it to you now. What's hard about holding on to a job? Try holding on to a dream, writes David LeBrun in Delirium Vitae. LeBrun held on to his dream, and now he's got a gritty, rollicking, and heartbreaking memoir to show for it. I put it on the shelf with Bukowski, Fante, and Kerouac. Reckless young men with libido and wanderlust should put it in their backpacks before setting off on adventures that will transform and define them. Heartfelt words, folks. 223 pages that will crack you up and break your heart.